As they were making their way home, a few of the searchers decided to take an unplanned detour. What started as a routine search quickly turned into something far more disturbing when they stumbled upon a crucial piece of evidence, one that directly linked the scene to Jodi. The discovery sent a chill down their spines, confirming their worst fears. Later that same day, as the search extended further into the dense woods, investigators came across a sight so horrifying that it shattered any remaining hope of finding Jodi alive. Beneath a careless heap of leaves, branches, and logs, they discovered Jodi's lifeless body, concealed as if in a desperate attempt to hide the grim truth. Dear viewers, please don't forget to like, leave a comment under the video, and subscribe to the channel so as not to miss new videos. This is very important to us. This true crime happened to Jodi Sanderholm, who was born on September 26, 1987, in the quiet town of Arkansas City, Kansas, to her loving parents, Brian and Cindy Sanderholm. She was the third child in the family, growing up with her older brother and sister, Jason and Jennifer. From an early age, Jodi exhibited a passion for dance, an interest that would shape much of her life. However, while dance played a significant role in her daily routine, she was also highly dedicated to her studies, demonstrating an impressive ability to balance both academics and extracurricular activities. Her discipline and intelligence paid off when she graduated as one of 4 valedictorians in her class. During her time at Arkansas City High School, Jodi excelled in multiple areas. She was an active member of the National Honor Society, a Kansas State Scholar, and a Kansas Board of Regents Scholar, distinctions that recognized her academic achievements and dedication. Her exceptional work in science earned her the prestigious Outstanding Physics Student of the Year award, which was presented to her by esteemed educator David Steinamitzi. Alongside her academic pursuits, Jodi was deeply involved in dance. She spent 4 years as a devoted member of the Ark City High School dance team, serving as captain for 2 of those years. Her leadership and talent earned her a place as an instructor at Ark City Dance, and she also worked as an instructor for the Universal Dance Association. Jodi's dedication to dance continued after high school when she enrolled at Cowley College to study pre-pharmacy. Even with her demanding academic schedule, she found time to perform as a member of the Cowley Tigerette dance line, further proving her relentless work ethic and love for the art. In 2007, Arkansas City was a relatively small community with a population of approximately 12,000 residents. Like many parents in the area, Brian and Cindy believed they had chosen a safe and peaceful place to raise their children. On the morning of January 5, 2007, Jodi followed her usual routine, driving her Dodge Stratus to Cowley College for a scheduled dance rehearsal. The practice was set to conclude at 10:45 a.m., and afterward, she planned to return home. However, as the hours passed, something unusual happened. Jodi became unreachable. Cindy, her mother, attempted to call her daughter's cell phone multiple times but received no answer. This was highly uncharacteristic of Jodi, who always made a point to stay in touch with her family. Even if she missed a call, she would typically return it as soon as possible. A gnawing sense of unease took hold of Cindy. She decided to leave work early and go home to check if Jodi had made it back safely. When Cindy arrived at their house, her concern grew into outright fear. Jodi's car was nowhere in sight, even though she was expected to have been home by then. Inside, the absence of her daughter became even more alarming. Jodi had a routine. After returning from dance, she always showered and placed her uniform in the laundry. However, the shower stall was completely dry, and her dance uniform was missing, not in the hamper where she would normally place it. It became clear that she had never returned home after rehearsal. Desperate for answers, Cindy anxiously contacted Jodi's father, Brian, and her older sister, Jennifer. The tension in her voice was unmistakable as she explained that Jodi had not been answering her calls or messages. An immediate sense of unease washed over both Brian and Jennifer, as neither had spoken to Jodi that day, which was highly unusual. By noon, the uneasiness escalated into full-fledged concern. Jodi had missed a critical appointment, one she had spoken about days prior with excitement. Missing it was not like her. Her parents, Cindy and Brian, now deeply alarmed, began reaching out to Jodi's friends, hoping someone might provide a clue. Call after call led them to the same dead end. No one had seen or heard from Jodi since that morning. The last confirmed sighting placed her leaving the college campus after her morning rehearsal. That single detail only deepened the growing fear. Had she been taken? Had something happened between then and the time she was expected to be home? As hours passed with no sign of Jodi, desperation gripped her loved ones. Evening arrived, bringing with it an unbearable sense of dread. Jodi was supposed to be at the Cowley College basketball game that night. Not only was she a dedicated member of the dance team, but she had choreographed the night's routine herself. Skipping the performance was unthinkable. Yet, as the game commenced and the team took their places on the court, Jodi's absence loomed ominously over the event. By 6 p.m., the weight of the situation was undeniable. Cindy and Brian, overwhelmed with fear and uncertainty, made the decision to report their daughter missing. They drove straight to the local police station, their minds racing with every possible scenario. Law enforcement responded swiftly. Officers from the sheriff's department wasted no time distributing flyers bearing Jodi's image and physical description, plastering them across campus, local businesses, and public spaces. Investigators moved quickly, retracing her last known movements and questioning those closest to her. One of the first people authorities reached out to was Colby Wilson, Jodi's longtime boyfriend. They had been together since high school, and he remained a central figure in her life. If anyone knew something, it would be him. When police contacted Colby, he sounded genuinely distraught. He explained that he had been in Texas for several days visiting his brother. Investigators verified his alibi without delay, confirming that Colby had been nowhere near Arkansas City at the time of Jodi's disappearance. He was promptly ruled out as a suspect. However, the following day, January 6th, presented a significant breakthrough in the case. Lori Leglighter, Jodi's best friend and fellow dancer, stepped forward with disturbing information. Lori and Jodi had been inseparable since high school, their friendship cemented by their mutual love of dance. They had both chosen to attend Cowley College, further strengthening their bond. But now, with Jodi missing, Lori recalled an unsettling event from just days prior, something that had seemed insignificant at the time, but now sent a chill down her spine. On the night of January 2, Lori had finished her shift at the Sirloin Stockade restaurant in Arkansas City around 10 p.m. As she stepped into the cold night air, she noticed something peculiar. A light blue car circling the parking lot. Once, twice, 3 times. The repeated passes struck her as odd, but she had brushed it off, assuming it was a driver who had simply lost their way. However, in light of Jodi's disappearance, that same memory now felt menacing. On her way home that night, Lori couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that she was being followed. She glanced into her rearview mirror and noticed the same light blue car following her at a steady distance. At first, she told herself it was a coincidence, but as she made several turns, she realized the car was mirroring her movements precisely. "I thought something strange was going on," Lori later admitted to detectives. "It was too deliberate. It wasn't just someone heading in the same direction. They were following me." To test her growing suspicion, Lori intentionally altered her route, making abrupt turns onto unfamiliar streets. Her pulse quickened when the car remained behind her, unwavering in its pursuit. Panic took hold. Whoever was in that car wasn't just headed the same way. They were hunting her. Thinking fast, Lori made a split-second decision. She veered toward the local police station, praying that the presence of law enforcement would deter her pursuer. As she pulled into the parking lot and parked near the station, she held her breath, eyes locked on her rearview mirror. For a few agonizing moments, nothing happened. Then, relief flooded her as the blue car seemed to disappear into the night. She let out a shaky breath, telling herself she was overreacting. Reassured, Lori started the car again and drove home carefully. But just as she was beginning to relax, her heart nearly stopped. The light blue vehicle had returned. It appeared in her rearview mirror like a ghost from a nightmare. The realization struck like a bolt of lightning. Whoever had been following her hadn't given up. Fear overtook her. Instead of heading straight home, Lori turned sharply, retracing her route back to the police station. She parked, heart pounding, debating whether she should go inside. Ultimately, she dismissed the idea, convincing herself that it might have been a misguided prank by someone she knew. But deep down, she suspected there was more to it than that. On Friday, January 5th, the Tigerette dance line was holding a rehearsal at Cowley College. Lori and Jodi, as usual, arrived at nearly the same time and parked in close proximity to each other. As Lori stepped out of her car, her stomach twisted in unease. There it was again. The same light blue car. This time, she got a clear look at the man behind the wheel. He was a local resident, 23-year-old Justin Thurber. Though she had never personally spoken to him, she recognized him from around town, often seen in the company of his older brother and his friends. The sight of him watching from his car sent an eerie feeling down Lori's spine, but she kept her concerns to herself. That afternoon, Jodi and Lori left practice together, exchanging plans to meet up later. However, as the hours passed, Jodi never showed up for their meeting. As worry set in, Lori began making calls, but Jodi's phone remained unanswered. The unsettling feeling she had experienced earlier now morphed into full-blown dread. In the following hours, several members of the dance team revealed a disturbing detail. Justin Thurber had been spotted loitering near the college parking lot multiple times throughout the past week. He never spoke to anyone, never interacted. He only sat in his car, watching. As the search for Jodi intensified within the first 24 hours of her disappearance, police scoured Arkansas City, but there was no sign of her car. With the city surrounded by fields, wooded areas, and the Arkansas River, they expanded their search efforts. Law enforcement enlisted a fixed-wing aircraft to survey the surrounding terrain from the air, hoping to locate Jodi's missing Dodge Stratus. While a person could be hidden, a car was much more difficult to conceal. The investigation took a critical turn when police traced the last recorded signal from Jodi's cell phone. It had pinged from a tower near the Cow Wildlife Area, a vast stretch of dense forest and open land running along the river. The location was remote, making it an ideal place to hide something, or someone. The area was quickly designated as a focal point of the search effort. At this point, all eyes were on one person, Justin Thurber. With multiple eyewitness accounts placing him near Jodi in the days leading up to her disappearance, he became the prime suspect. But law enforcement's interest in Thurber extended beyond his recent suspicious behavior. He had a long history of trouble with the law. Despite his young age, Thurber was no stranger to the justice system. 3 years earlier, in 2004, he had been arrested and charged with illegal possession of controlled substances. Though he was handed a suspended sentence and granted release, it wasn't long before he found himself back in trouble. 3 months later, he was caught committing theft, violating his probation in the process. His criminal record continued to grow. In October 2005, he faced charges for disorderly conduct, and by January 2006, he had been arrested yet again, this time for petty theft and another drug-related offense. His repeated run-ins with the law painted a troubling picture. And now, in 2007, he had gone from being a petty criminal to a person of serious interest in the disappearance of Jodi Sanderholm. Investigators knew that if they didn't act quickly, they might never find Jodi. Or worse, they might be too late. On December 31, 2006, just 6 days before Jodi Sanderholm vanished, Justin Thurber found himself in trouble with the law once again. That day, he was arrested for theft, an incident that, in hindsight, seemed almost trivial compared to what was to come. However, rather than facing any serious consequences, Thurber was able to post a $3,000 bail and walk free in time to celebrate New Year's Eve without a care in the world. The following day, January 1, he escalated his reckless behavior by impersonating a police officer and disturbing public order. When real law enforcement officers arrived to detain him, he feigned chest pain and was taken to the hospital instead of being booked into jail. Curiously, despite being released from the hospital, no immediate steps were taken to rearrest him. The reason for this apparent leniency remains unclear. Some speculated that a relative of his who worked within the Cowley County Police Department may have played a role in keeping him out of trouble, though this remains unproven speculation. Then came January 6th. A police officer on routine patrol happened to spot Justin Thurber's vehicle, a light blue Cadillac, parked outside his parents' home. Seizing the opportunity, the officer decided to speak with him. Thurber's father answered the door and invited the officer inside. When questioned about his whereabouts on January 5th, the day Jodi disappeared, Justin gave an unconvincing and convoluted story. He claimed that he had driven to Winfield, a town about 13 miles outside Arkansas City, early that morning. Once there, he supposedly met up with a friend and two of the friend's acquaintances, people he barely knew. Together, the four of them allegedly drove around the countryside in a car belonging to one of his friend's acquaintances. According to Thurber, their aimless drive took a turn for the worse when the vehicle became stuck on a dirt road near Cedar Vale, a remote location approximately 30 miles from Arkansas City. With no other options, Thurber claimed that he set off on foot toward Arkansas City. After trudging for 6 hours, exhausted and wet, he finally called his father, who picked him up near Cali State Fishing Lake. His father corroborated this story, telling police that he had indeed retrieved Justin a few miles away from the lake, covered in mud and soaked through. However, there were glaring inconsistencies in his tale. When asked what had happened to his own car, which he had supposedly left in Winfield, Justin stated that his friends had returned it for him. This explanation raised more questions than it answered, but at the time, there was still no concrete evidence linking him to Jodi's disappearance, and the officer had no choice but to leave. Later that evening, investigators turned their attention to Alexis Schwartzel, Justin Thurber's ex-girlfriend. She had recently ended a tumultuous 3-year relationship with him, and what she told police only intensified their growing suspicions. Alexis revealed that during their relationship, Justin had frequently taken her to the Kaw Wildlife Area, southeast of Arkansas City. She even identified specific locations that the two had visited, eerie and secluded spots she had always found unsettling. When the detectives informed her that they were investigating Jodi Sanderholm's disappearance, Alexis's face went pale, her hands trembling as she absorbed the gravity of the situation. She then shared a deeply disturbing revelation. Justin had been fixated on Jodi for years. According to Alexis, Thurber had admitted to watching Jodi since he was 13 years old. He would spy on her while she swam in her backyard pool, his presence an unseen shadow lurking in the periphery of her safe space. On some occasions, Alexis revealed, he had stood outside Jodi's bedroom window, waiting for her to change clothes. This chilling confession painted Thurber as an obsessive stalker who had been fixated on Jodi for nearly a decade, his predatory behavior escalating year after year. The more Alexis spoke, the darker the picture of Justin Thurber became. She described how his behavior had grown increasingly erratic and abusive over time. He exhibited different tendencies, often taking pleasure in choking her to the point of unconsciousness during intimacy. He did not just enjoy control, he relished in the fear he induced. In addition, he had disturbing requests. He wanted her to fight him, claiming that violence was the only way he could be aroused. His fascination with domination and pain left detectives with little doubt that Thurber was more than just a troubled young man. He was a dangerous individual with a long history of escalating violence and deviant behavior. Every detail Alexis provided added to the urgency of finding Jodi before it was too late. By late evening on January 6th, investigators had gathered enough circumstantial evidence to take action. Although they lacked definitive proof tying Thurber to Jodi's disappearance, their instincts screamed that he was involved. Detective Eric Mata took the lead, arresting Thurber on charges of bail revocation and suspicion of criminal trespass. The latter charge stemmed from new evidence uncovered during the investigation. Thurber had been on the Cowley College campus, a place where Detective Mata firmly believed he had no legitimate reason to be. When confronted, Thurber immediately requested a lawyer, refusing to answer any further questions. His stone-cold demeanor only heightened the detective's suspicions. Meanwhile, a team of officers arrived at the Thurber family home armed with a search warrant. Their objective was to gather any potential evidence that might link him to Jodi's disappearance. One of the first things they seized was the pair of shoes Justin had been wearing on January 5th. The shoes were still damp and had been left out to dry on a towel. Thurber's father admitted that he had helped his son clean off the mud that coated them, a revelation that raised immediate red flags. Investigators also confiscated the clothes Justin had been wearing when his father picked him up near the lake. However, they soon learned that Thurber had managed to wash them before the police arrived. The attempt to destroy potential evidence only deepened the authorities' resolve to uncover the truth. On January 7th, the search for Jodi Sanderholm intensified as specialized teams trained in tracking human activity in rugged terrain began their meticulous search through the dense and vast Kaw wildlife area. The effort yielded its first crucial discoveries: shoe prints that matched Justin Thurber's distinctive tread, along with several smaller shoe prints, potentially belonging to Jodi. Investigators carefully documented the prints, tracing their movements through the thick brush and towards the water's edge. However, as darkness descended, the searchers had no choice but to postpone further investigation until the following morning. On their way home, some of the searchers decided to make an impromptu stop at Cowley County State Fishing Lake, spurred by the knowledge that Justin Thurber had been soaking wet when his father retrieved him. Their instincts proved correct. In the dimming light, they discovered a set of muddy tire tracks leading toward the water's edge, accompanied by numerous muddy shoe prints scattered near a public restroom. Each footprint told a story, a sequence of events waiting to be unraveled. Their search took a chilling turn when they found evidence that tied the scene directly to Jodi. Mail addressed to her parents was discarded inside a chemical toilet, an eerie and deliberate disposal of personal effects. Another cabin contained a pair of dance shoes, delicate and unmistakably belonging to Jodi, a heartbreaking indicator that she had been at this location. A single flip-flop sandal, seemingly out of place, lay nearby. Investigators later uncovered even more damning evidence in the vicinity. Among the recovered items were a pair of cut-off sweatshorts, a wallet containing Jodi Sanderholm's driver's license and social security card, her signature black leotard, a Tigerette dance team jacket embroidered with her first name, a vehicle floor mat, and a car seat cushion. Forensic analysis later confirmed that the impressions on the sandal found at the lake matched the ones discovered at the Kaw wildlife area. For the next 2 days, search efforts were concentrated around the lake and the wildlife area, and each passing moment unraveled a grim reality. On January 9, sonar specialists brought in to scan the bottom of the lake made a heartbreaking discovery. Jodi's car lay submerged beneath the water, concealed for more than 3 days. That same day, as the search expanded into deeper parts of the wooded area, investigators came upon a gruesome sight that extinguished any lingering hope for Jodi's safe return. Underneath a haphazard pile of leaves, logs, and twigs, they found Jodi's lifeless, naked body. The evidence connecting Justin Thurber to both the car and Jodi's remains was undeniable. Though investigators initially feared that the water damage to the vehicle's interior would wash away critical evidence, forensic experts spent countless hours meticulously combing through every inch of the submerged vehicle. Their persistence paid off. A single short hair was found inside the car. Terry Melton, director of the Forensic DNA Testing Lab, conducted mitochondrial DNA testing on the strand of hair recovered from the driver's seat. The results confirmed what detectives had already suspected. It was an almost certain match to Justin Thurber. Further DNA evidence sealed his fate. Barbara Leal, an employee at a private forensic lab, conducted testing on biological samples recovered from Jodi's right biceps and chest. The results showed that while 99% of the population could be excluded as a match, Justin Thurber could not. The findings were damning, but the technological proof wasn't the only piece of the puzzle. Cell phone tower records placed Justin and Jodi in the same locations at the same time on the day of her disappearance. Lori Leglighter, Jodi's best friend, told police that she had seen Justin in the Cowley College parking lot on the morning Jodi vanished. When authorities reviewed security footage from the college administration, her account was confirmed. The footage revealed a chilling sequence. Justin Thurber's light blue Cadillac sat parked in the lot while the dance rehearsal was underway. As soon as Jodi left, Justin followed her. Investigators then pieced together what they believed happened next. The presence of Jodi's personal mail at the lake suggested that Thurber had followed her all the way to her home. When she exited her car to retrieve the mail from her family's mailbox, he likely ambushed her. A footprint identical to the tread of Thurber's sneakers was found beside the Sanderholm mailbox, providing irrefutable proof that he had been there. From that moment on, Jodi was at his mercy. Her last movements, though reconstructed through forensic evidence, painted a horrifying picture. As previously discovered, both Justin's and Jodi's footprints were found in the Kaw Wildlife Area. The unsettling pattern of the tracks revealed everything. At first, the two sets of prints walked side by side, but abruptly, Jodi's smaller footprints disappeared. The tracks indicated that at this point, Thurber had lifted her off the ground and carried her deep into the woods. His shoe prints were later found at the exact spot where her body had been discarded. Inconsistencies in Justin Thurber's alibi further cemented his guilt. He had claimed that on the day of Jodi's disappearance, he was with 3 acquaintances, driving through the countryside near Cedar Vale. However, when authorities questioned these individuals, they flatly denied ever being with him. They had not seen him that day at all. This meant that Justin's entire story about getting a car stuck and walking 30 miles was nothing more than an elaborate fabrication. The mounting evidence against Justin Thurber was overwhelming. From forensic DNA analysis to security footage, cell tower records, and contradicting alibis, law enforcement had built an airtight case. What had started as a desperate search for a missing woman had transformed into an undeniable proof of a predator lurking in plain sight. The walls were closing in on Justin Thurber, and the law was ready to bring him to justice. The 3 officers transported Justin Thurber to Cedar Vale, where he claimed to have been when his car got stuck. However, upon arrival, Justin was unable to pinpoint the exact location where he had allegedly encountered trouble, nor could he provide any plausible details that would substantiate his story. His inability to identify the area further deepened law enforcement's suspicions. Back at the police station, Justin, in an attempt to appear cooperative, volunteered to take a polygraph test. He also made a special request for his relative, Chad Monroe, an officer working for the Cowley County Sheriff's Office, to be present during the questioning. Despite his willingness to submit to the test, the accumulating physical and circumstantial evidence was already more than sufficient to indict him. In court, Justin Thurber adamantly denied any involvement in Jodi Sanderholm's murder. However, his continued claims of innocence did little to sway the judicial process. The judge, recognizing the severity of the crime, set his bail at an astonishing $1 million. Justin's defense attorneys scrambled to present a case for his mental incompetency, arguing that he was unfit to stand trial. They attempted to paint a picture of a man with severe cognitive limitations. However, these claims were quickly dismantled when evidence was presented showing that Justin had successfully graduated from high school and had even attended college for a period of time. The judge ruled that the defense failed to prove their claim of mental incompetence, allowing the trial to proceed. The medical examiner who conducted Jodi's autopsy provided chilling testimony during the trial. He described in graphic detail the state of her body, recounting how her face and torso were covered in bruises and abrasions, clear indicators of a violent struggle. There were unmistakable ligature marks around her neck, leading to the official determination that the cause of death was strangulation. The examiner went further, stating that there was no doubt in his mind that Jodi's final hours were filled with unimaginable pain and suffering. The brutality of the crime left the courtroom in stunned silence. During the trial, additional victims came forward to testify against Justin Thurber. In addition to his ex-girlfriend, 6 other women took the stand, each recounting unsettling encounters with him. One woman, a former co-worker, revealed that Thurber had stalked her relentlessly. On one occasion, she was so terrified that she called the police and requested an officer to escort her to her car after work. She recounted an instance in which she found a single rose tucked under her windshield wiper, along with a chilling note expressing his infatuation with her and his desire to know her better. The prosecution also presented compelling eyewitness testimonies regarding Jodi's whereabouts on January 5, 2007. Carrie Morris, a close friend of Jodi, recalled a haunting sighting. As their vehicles passed each other in Arkansas City shortly after noon, Carrie noticed Jodi seated in the passenger seat of her own car. The man driving appeared to be large and unfamiliar. Concerned, she immediately dialed Jodi's cell phone, but her call went unanswered. Further eyewitness accounts placed Jodi's car on a secluded dirt road south of Arkansas City around 3 p.m. Two separate women reported seeing a vehicle resembling Jodi's, and one of them positively identified the driver as Justin Thurber. This testimony, coupled with the forensic evidence, painted a devastatingly clear picture of what had transpired. On February 17, 2009, after deliberating, the jury reached a unanimous verdict. Justin Thurber was found guilty on all counts, and the jury recommended the death penalty. As the reality of his fate set in, Justin made a last-ditch effort to save himself. His attorneys approached the prosecution with an offer. Justin would plead guilty in exchange for life imprisonment, thereby avoiding execution. However, Jodi's family vehemently opposed such a deal, unwilling to allow him any semblance of leniency. The presiding judge honored the jury's recommendation, sentencing Justin Thurber to death by lethal injection in March 2009. Despite the firm ruling, Justin Thurber and his legal team embarked on a relentless appeals process. His attorneys repeatedly sought to overturn his sentence, citing his supposed mental incompetency. In 2018, their efforts gained traction when the Kansas Supreme Court postponed his execution. The decision was influenced by a ruling from the United States Supreme Court, which deemed it unconstitutional to execute individuals with even mild developmental disabilities. However, this ruling was met with fierce resistance from Jodi's family. The Sanderholms maintained that a competency hearing had already been conducted during the original trial, and that Justin had been found fully capable of understanding the gravity of his actions. Jodi's mother, Cindy Sanderholm, attended court hearings even years after her daughter's tragic death, determined to ensure that justice prevailed. In a heart-wrenching statement, she revealed that even in prison, Justin continued his disturbing behavior. He had been writing letters to other young women, attempting to initiate contact despite being incarcerated for the brutal murder of Jodi. "That's sick. It's just sick," Cindy said during an interview. "It tells you that he is competent enough to reach out to people and write letters." Now 39 years old, Justin Thurber continues to serve his sentence at the maximum security El Dorado Correctional Facility in Butler County, Kansas. Perhaps the greatest tragedy of all was that Cindy Sanderholm, Jodi's mother, never got to witness the justice she so desperately sought. On December 2, 2022, Cindy passed away at the age of 63. After years of heartbreak, she left this world without ever seeing the fair punishment she had hoped would be delivered to Justin Thurber.